what's real or fake. Golden Greek told us the giant goon Dickoff, El Toro, the Grunt Brothers too. The wild Samoans got something crazy going. They're gonna be going after you. Wrestling tonight. Everything is bigger than life. Wrestling tonight. Rock and roll and wrestling tonight. Flying drop kicks.
All right, welcome back to Wrestling Tonight. I am your host, Mad Dog Butch. With me, as always, the Billy Joe Travis to my gorgeous Gary Young. None other than Brace Beemer.
Yeah. Good night. Have a good night, everyone. Let's go home. I just wanted to do that today.
So we've been off for a couple weeks, and we're back.
Yeah,
we've been
tour
trying
the Orient.
Well, we've been trying to get this done for the last couple of weeks, but for outside reasons, we haven't been able to. But finally, today, we are going to discuss WrestleMania 3. Now, you and I both were able to attend this WrestleMania.
Oh, heck yeah.
And this took place on Sunday, March 29th, 1987, at the Pontiac Silverdome, of course. I mean, what I remember about it was you, like, before the show, leading up to the show, you had got tickets, I believe. You had gotten a ticket for me, and I don't know if I just didn't tell my dad or what, but so, like, you know, I'm all set to go with you. And then a little while before, probably like a week before the show, my dad says he wants to go and ends up getting tickets for me, him, my cousin Eddie, to break kayfabe here, some of the people that used to watch the Jobber Hour, he's EW, and Steve Salters, a friend of ours. Now, so who did you end up sitting next to at WrestleMania 3?
John Shabilla and Ryan Felix.
Okay.
Yeah.
I should also mention that featured, you'll never see me because I'm way up in the nosebleeds. I don't know. Can you see yourself?
No, because it's too dark.
Thing? Okay.
Yeah, I tried to pause a bunch of times because we were right up behind the entrance where they came out. But it was like 20 rows up higher than that, probably.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no chance.
But a couple of our friends are featured on there a couple times.
Yeah.
The original Rhino, Ryan Rabb. Jeff Kendall Nelson, one half of the AC/DC Express, and his brother Kurt, who were mentioned the last time we were here.
Yeah, they're getting a lot of ink on this show.
Yeah, they are. And one other thing that I remember about the show, like the very first house show, this had to be probably the third WWF show that I had attended, I believe, because, excuse me, the first one was a house show in probably 1985 at Joe Louis, and I had gotten a Roddy Piper shirt, the Hot Rod shirt, at that one. I didn't get anything at the second one, which I think was some show that they did at the fairgrounds at the
they used to do
the
those.
Michigan State Fair.
Yeah.
And then WrestleMania 3.
Valentine and Hogan was a big main event on one of those.
Yeah, that's they had a battle royal. I want to say the main event of the one I was at was a battle royal that I want to say the Junkyard Dog won. But they had matches. Excuse me, they had matches leading up to that. But and then WrestleMania 3. So I had already had the Roddy Piper T-shirt. So I remember buying the purple Macho Man T-shirt, Macho Man Randy Savage T-shirt with the sunglasses on it.
Yeah, I remember that.
At that show. Did you buy any merchandise at WrestleMania 3 that you remember? Didn't you buy? I'm thinking you bought a Jake the Snake Roberts shirt.
Yeah, I think it was. You know what? That might have been the Saturday night main event that they had at the Joe prior to WrestleMania.
Okay, that was leading up to
this
WrestleMania.
Yeah, because
right?
I think that was the first wrestling show that I went to.
Oh, okay.
was that one.
Okay.
And I think it was there.
All right.
I don't remember buying any merch at WrestleMania,
Okay.
but it could have been one of the two. I mean, it was so long ago. And then we made the trade.
Yeah, we did.
I got a Piper
and
shirt for Jake the Snake shirt.
Yeah. Then I ended up outgrowing the Jake the Snake shirt like a week later.
Yeah.
But hey, whatever.
Oh, regarding the you mentioned a couple of our buddies in the crowd, Ryan Rabb and Jeff Nelson. They used that shot of those guys and Jeff's brother Kurt. They were centered in this shot, and they used that shot over and over and over
They
for
do.
literally every WrestleMania.
All the way up until now.
Yeah.
Exactly. Right.
I haven't seen it in a few years because I kind of dropped out of that, that watching scene. But
Well,
it's kinda
I'm
cool.
probably exaggerating a bit,
Yeah.
but they did use it a lot.
And another thing, that shot where it came from was in between, I think, the first and second match. Because if I'm right, the second match is a battle of the full Nelsons. So it was in between the first and the second match.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
So,
Okay.
battle of the full Nelsons, both Nelsons there. So it wasn't a battle of the half Nelsons, it was the full Nelsons.
Oh, okay. Okay, well, let's get into it. One thing I will say about this WrestleMania, two things that stick out that I'm not going to talk about every single time, but it seemed like they were kind of getting away from the gimmicky stuff and the guest stuff and kind of focused more on the matches and the build up to the matches, I thought.
Yeah, compared to the
in this one, because really there was only like a handful of celebrity guests on this one.
thankfully.
And yeah, exactly. And on top of it, because it was such a long way from the locker room to the ring, they brought everybody out in these mini rigs that brought them there and back. Some people chose not to use it a couple times, either there or back, but for the most part, everybody kind of rode on these these tractor pulled.
Yeah, it looked like a modified
little
forklift deal
rings.
that
Yeah.
looked like a ring. Those were cool.
Yeah, it was. But okay, so let's get into it. We start off with a introduction by Vince McMahon. He welcomes us to the arena, and he introduces Aretha Franklin, who sings "America the Beautiful."
A quality rendition.
Decent job, yeah, exactly. Then from there, we get Gorilla Monsoon and Jesse Ventura introducing us to pretty much the two only celebrities we see throughout the rest of the night, and that's Mary Hart and Bob Uecker. Now, right after this, I had a seizure, and that was the end of what I saw because Mary Hart started talking, and her voice gives me a seizure. Just kidding.
And Ventura and Monsoon, my favorite commentary duo of all time.
Yeah, one thing that I will say, Gorilla, I love Gorilla. His commentary was great, but he needed to look up the definition of literally. First of all, he used that term so much, and again, it's not literal if he's talking about stuff that's not literal, which he did quite a bit, and I really noticed it. Towards the end, I was like, man, I should have kept counting how many literally.
Yeah, like a drinking
he
game.
said, but yeah,
I didn't even notice that. I didn't even notice.
I did. I noticed it right off the bat because he didn't use it in the proper context.
Oh, okay.
And so then every time he said it, I would I'd notice it. But
Dude, you look like you're mad at me with that new mask on.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
well, I'm not. But yeah, it's a little tight. I'm breaking it in today, so hopefully my big head will stretch it out a little bit.
Yeah, make sure the camera gets a good shot. It's a quality mask.
Uh,
Oh, Monsoon. Speaking of Monsoon, he did a great job with the with the celebrities.
oh yeah.
I mean, he was always like
he
good.
kind of always did.
Yeah.
I mean, even
He knew how to handle them, how to get them engaged, and
and you could tell that that even if he was annoyed by something they were saying, that he just kind of gloss over it,
Yeah.
or kind of like move on, or kind of throw something out there that they could like respond to, or just move on. But yeah. So we get Howard Finkel introducing or being the ring announcer for match. I will say this: I just saw Howard Finkel, and he's not looking well. I don't know what is wrong with him. I just saw a current picture of him, but I know that he's not doing well. So
Really?
yeah. So
That's too bad.
unfortunately, he might not be around too much longer. But
Oh.
but anyway, or he
One of the
might
all-time
live. He might
greats.
live forever. I don't know. But so we go to match 1, which is Rick Martel and Tom Zenk, the Can-Am Connection, versus Magnificent Muraco and Cowboy Bob Orton with Mr. Fuji. Now did you notice this, or maybe I was hearing things, but it seemed like Martel and Zenk kind of got a mixed reaction from the crowd.
Yeah. Yeah, I noticed that.
Which I don't remember that before. I thought that they were like really popular, like right off the bat.
You
Which
know-
I mean, I think they were, but for whatever reason.
Yeah,
it
and
didn't
it's
seem
the
like they
opening
got-
match too, and
Yeah.
I mean it's, that brings up a point. Like a lot of times, you can go back and watch so much wrestling now that we didn't have
Yeah.
access to when we were a kid,
Right.
or even what we've seen before. Like if I put in an old tape, or
Yeah.
just watch something that I've already seen and know on the internet, the way the sound is now.
Yeah.
You can hear like a lot of boos or a different reaction, different noises from the crowd that you just couldn't hear when we were kids.
Mhm.
Because most of the stuff that I watched was on like a little mono TV, and if it had,
Right.
like a stereo sound,
Yeah.
they were like 10
Yeah.
watt speakers.
Right.
know?
Yeah. You know what? I never even thought about
Yeah.
that aspect of it. But I mean, I don't remember that it was a long time ago, but I don't remember, obviously we were in the crowd. I don't remember,
Yeah.
but the getting the mixed reaction.
5 minutes and 37 seconds.
I want to say this. Jason the Basher Klaus just commented. He said, in front of 20,000, the Can-Ams were huge. In front of 90,000, not so much.
Yeah.
So
that's about right.
Yeah, that could have a lot to do with
Well,
it.
I mean, really, if you think about it, that 90,000 crowd, they're not all hardcore wrestling fans like you would see on the,
True.
like on the Superstars show.
True. And the Can-Ams had not been in there very long.
Yeah.
I mean, they really had not
Right.
been in there that long. This was probably their biggest test to date, at least that anybody had seen. They might have wrestled some people on house shows up until this point. But anyway, yeah. How long was the match time on this?
5 minutes and 37 seconds.
Yeah.
Definitely not enough time for this amount of talent in the ring, and that'll be a truism laced throughout this card.
Right. But what are you gonna? I mean, what can you do? Really. I mean, it was fine for what it was. Eventually, this leads to it kind of plants the seed for later on. Magnificent Muraco and Bob Orton breaking up as a team.
Yeah.
Tom Zenk was not around very much longer because he ended up finding out that Rick Martel was making a lot more money than him, and he got a bug up his butt and got out of there.
Andy had a penchant for jumping up off of the mat out of people's finishers,
But I don't think that had anything to do with it. You and I
Probably
noticed
not.
that, but I don't think anybody else noticed that. One thing that I do want to point out that I found pretty funny. I mean, not funny, but at the time, yeah, I mean, I guess it is funny that Jesse Ventura was always getting on the case of referee Joey Morella when he was working with Gorilla Monsoon, and he was Gorilla Monsoon's stepson.
Yeah.
Which I didn't know until years later, but he was always on Joey Morella's case back then. I noticed it through the whole thing. I mean,
Yeah.
and that brought back the memories of him always doing it. But anyway, I mean, decent enough opener, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing wrong with it.
You know, one thing that I took a note for with Cowboy Bob Orton, one of the greatest technicians ever in the ring. That's what a lot of people say. And
Yeah.
it's hard to argue against that. But,
Yeah.
and I read this, I was out in the internet, Netherlands somewhere, just browsing forums and reading on stuff. And some guy brought up a point. He's like, man, for as good as Bob Orton was, what are his like standout matches, that people go back and watch and say, oh, you got to see this thing.
Yeah.
I mean, there's one with Adonis that's kind of famous from down south, but
Yeah.
you
No,
know,
I agree with you, and I was a big
It's weird.
and I was a big Cowboy Bob Orton
Yeah.
fan actually, and I liked his matches. But you're right, There was like,
and I don't
nothing-
mean that to slot him, but I think
Right.
it's more like positioning, where
Yeah.
he was in the card, because
Yeah.
he was always the guy to help get the other guys over.
But
for
even
Piper or
the
Hogan or
way that
whatnot.
he worked, just the way that he worked, I just wouldn't say that he would ever have a match that would just stand out
Yeah.
that way.
Didn't deliver a lot of heat. He's kind of solid and steady.
I mean, the crowd hated him.
yeah.
I mean, and I don't know if that was because he was with Piper or what, but I mean, yeah, I mean, he could draw the heat from the crowd, but it was just the way that he worked. I think that you're not going to get a match like that anybody is ever going to put in their, top 10 or top 100 even.
And he could be such a good worker. He's just working to his spot on the card,
Yeah.
and if he's working a main event, maybe you get something a little different. A lot of guys are like that. He's probably won, but just never
Yeah.
positioned,
Yeah,
for those memorable
very
matches.
solid worker. Didn't make a lot of mistakes.
Oh, yeah, great.
Executed everything great.
Yeah.
Kind of had the slower pace. Made everything count. There wasn't like a lot of wasted movements, but yeah. I mean, I see what you're saying there. Next, we get a video recap of the Billy Jack Haynes and Hercules feud. Now, this was not actually marketed as a full Nelson versus full Nelson.
Yeah, and they
match.
should have.
But
I remember at the
watching
time.
this, that's what I was thinking too.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, they both won with the full Nelson, but they just to add something a little bit to it, they could have said, "You have to win with the full Nelson."
Yeah.
But anyway, so that goes into the match, or actually, then we get Mean Gene interviews Heenan and Hercules. That takes us to match number 2, which is Billy Jack Haynes versus Hercules.
Hercules'
With
his
Heenan.
mythological promo.
He what?
His mythological promo that he went into. He was talking about Hercules, the mythical figure.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and all that. It's kind of,
Right.
it was kind of weird because it was so like scripted. He did a good job with it.
Yeah.
It was almost like a Saturday Night Main Event type promo. That's kind of what it reminded me of. But
Yeah,
just
yeah,
a note.
It did. Yeah. So Billy Jack ends up no. It ended up being a double count out.
Yeah, it was a double count.
Because and then after Hercules busts Billy Jack Haynes open with the chain and we get some blood. Billy Jack Haynes also when they're outside of the ring and Billy Jack has Hercules locked in the full Nelson, he pukes. They cut away from it really fast, but you can catch it right as it's coming up. I remember like noticing that when I first saw it.
I didn't
but,
even notice like watching it again.
Yeah, you could barely see it. It's just like he's got him in it. It starts to come up and they cut like right away.
Ah.
But yeah, he definitely did.
Billy Jerk juiced on this one too. It was a good cut. That was nice to see.
Yeah, I know that was good.
Who do you think would win in a real fight between those two? Because those are two of the heralded.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Kind of tough guys
Right.
that people really wouldn't want to mess with.
Yeah, I don't know about.
I was
that.
thinking about that during the match. Maybe I'd go with Herc. That's who I'd take anyway. Billy Jack's a
you know
little
what?
more crazy, but
Yeah, that's why I'm going to take Billy Jack because I mean he's just gone totally off his rocker at this point.
but Hercules legitimately ripped a car door off of a car. So
Yeah, that's a tough call. I'd have to think about that one. So then we go into a interview with Mean Gene along with King Kong Bundy, which takes us to match 3. Little Tokyo and Lord Littlebrook, along with King Kong Bundy versus Little Beaver, the Haiti Kid, and Hillbilly Jim. How the mighty have fallen from WrestleMania 2, the main event against Hulk Hogan in a cage, to being in this match in WrestleMania 3 if you're King Kong Bundy. Match ends on a DQ when Bundy body slams and drops the elbow on Little Beaver. And then the midgets all unite against him and kind of chase him off at the end. And then everybody feels good about themselves.
yeah, I noticed on the way to the ring, the bad guy, Little Tokyo. They're supposed to be the heels with Bundy and who was the other partner, Lord Littlebrook.
Yeah.
They're coming, and then Little Tokyo's like waving to the crowd. He's like all happy, and he's supposed to be the bad guy.
Oh, really? I didn't even notice that.
Yeah.
Oh, going back real quick. Speaking of that, when Hercules, did you notice when Hercules was going to leave, he got on the trailer thing, and the guy started to take off before he was on there, and he like runs up there and he's like just yelling at the guy driving the trailer. Yeah, real quick.
I must have turned my attention away from that.
Yeah, it was just real fast, but it was just something I caught.
I have to go.
He wasn't all the way stepped up there, and the guy like started to take off, and you see him kind of slip.
Huh.
Then he like runs up to the front, and he's like letting the guy have it a little bit.
I'm off my review game. That's two things out of that that you saw that I didn't.
So that match is what it is. Whatever.
Well, they dubbed over, because I watched it on the WWE network. They dubbed over "Don't Go Messing with a Country Boy" with some other generic track.
You could still hear it though.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
could
a
hear
little
it,
bit.
but then they just added like louder banjos over it, so you could kind of hear it. See, and I don't understand that because that was one of their own songs, but I don't know. I guess
Well, maybe it has something. They like parted ways with.
Jim Johnston.
Yeah, and maybe it
Was
had
he
something
around
to do
back
with
then?
that.
Though? I don't think
Yeah.
he was around all the way.
Yeah,
back
he
then.
was.
I didn't think they got him until the 90s.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe it's somebody else then.
Maybe they did. I don't know. But yeah, because I thought that it was. Well, I don't want to get into that whole thing. We'll talk about that on another show. Then we get a.
Well, I got a couple other
okay.
things on that one. Little Beaver's trunks. They looked older than Ole Anderson's wrestling boots.
Yeah, they did.
They were like the 60s, I don't know, like a skin color almost. Like Robert Gibson's first pair of Rock and Roll Express trunks. It was kind of weird.
Yeah.
And, in this, where I noticed it was like pretty loud for a stadium show. And granted,
Yeah.
it's an indoor stadium, but a lot of the stadium shows seem to lose a lot of the, like the sound, but not the
Yeah.
Silverdome. Of course, it's known for that, for when the Lions played there being pretty loud.
Right.
And a quote from Bob Uecker, there's a lot of beaver running around all over this place.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, that was one of the things that I was thinking of. Gorilla just kind of moved on from there. They kind of ignored that comment. just moved on. But that's funny because I had seen this, who knows how many times I had seen WrestleMania 3, after I was there. But, yeah, I don't know if I ever caught on to that until this time. That's what he said.
Yeah, I don't remember. I probably watched it a couple times. I didn't go back and watch that one a lot.
Yeah.
One other thing, that Bundy elbow drop on Little Beaver was sweet, and
Yeah,
Little Beaver deserved
it was.
every bit of that. Like at times, it sounded like Ventura was like the voice of reason out there on the commentary.
Oh, yeah, big time. Because, like, the good guy, I mean, the other announcers were just such shills for the good guys back then.
Like McMahon.
It was like, yeah. So, I mean, and the story is that when Vince told Jesse that he was going to be doing that, he's like, he's basically like, if you believe it, it's true.
Yeah.
Just go out there. And that's what you do. And so, yeah, a lot of times he did come off as the voice of reason.
Yeah.
And, I think that was kind of like always what he did,
Mhm.
So then we get an interview with Mary Hart, who wants to interview Miss Elizabeth. But Macho Man, of course, can't have that, so he comes in and interrupts and takes Elizabeth away.
That was done pretty well for having like a B-list celebrity in there, I thought.
I mean,
For what it was.
I mean, Mary Hart is, a good interviewer. I mean, I'm sure, and she's entertainment too. So
yeah.
A lot of them can come in there and do that well, and I thought she actually did a decent job throughout the whole thing.
Yeah, I think so too. She was way better than the celebrities.
Ones from the other one from
yeah.
WrestleMania 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then we get a video recap of the feud leading up to the next match, which is Junkyard Dog against King Harley Race.
Harley Race.
Then we get an interview with Mean Gene with Harley Race, the Fabulous Moolah, and Bobby Heenan. Then we get a interview with Junkyard Dog. That leads us to match 4. Like I said, Junkyard Dog versus Harley Race. The loser must bow to the other one. Harley wins that with a belly-to-belly suplex.
That was
continuing
awesome,
Junkyard Dog's WrestleMania losing streak. Well, I take that back. He did win on a reverse decision of WrestleMania 1 that I forgot about. But yeah, and I believe this was Junkyard Dog's last WrestleMania.
This one was, really?
I believe so. I have to check into that, but I think it might have been.
I'll be damned. Yeah, he was such a big name in there. I like this match.
He was not a bad match. Decent.
And it was short, 422,
But
so,
I mean, Harley, for being Harley at the time, I mean, and being like a little bit older, was bumping around like a pinball.
yeah. I mean, that's what he's known for, his bumps,
Yeah.
He really never stopped taking them.
Yeah.
He's a machine,
Right.
So
they give him, actually, he got a relatively clean victory.
Yeah.
I mean, besides Heenan jumping up and distracting JYD, but, that goes into the belly-to-belly suplex, and, he pretty much gets a clean victory. Junkyard Dog does bow to him, and then gets up and punches him and takes the crown and the cape.
What they
Or
call
did he
it?
take
Like
the crown or just the
I
cape?
think the crown too.
Yeah.
What they call it? A curtsy? Just
Well,
to
first he
try and-
curtsied to him, but then he did.
Oh,
He
okay.
did bow. Yeah, he did actually bow to him. But I think that match probably surprised a lot of people. Like if you're a WWF fan, strict WWF fan in 1987, you're probably wondering why Harley Race is getting the push that he's getting.
Yeah.
You probably thought that Junkyard Dog was going to squash him.
Yeah.
And that did not happen.
Yeah, Harley Race was awesome. Some nice punching in this match too. Both of them can throw the haymakers.
Yeah, that's true. Definitely.
I wrote down something from the Junkyard Dog interview. Here's a quote: "Just as sure as I'm black and the day is sunny." He said he wasn't going to bow. It's just like fun stuff like that people are so afraid to do on TV or anything now.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Solid lockups in the match.
I mean, it was just something that you would never even think of back then. I mean, it's not even anything that would like a lot of stuff that they said back then. It's just
Yeah, it just comes off like
nothing
you're
that you would
BSing
even,
amongst friends or something,
Yeah.
or just talking trash with somebody.
Yeah.
Oh, did you notice the Harley Race missing the diving headbutt off of the ring apron onto the floor?
I did.
That was awesome.
Yeah. Yes, I did. Like I said, yeah, Harley bumped around great in that match. I think that's what really made that match more than anything.
Yeah.
Was the way Harley was bumping around. But
And a good chair shot from Harley to the Junkyard Dog. Or no, it's from Dog. Nice
Oh,
chair
yeah.
shot in that.
oh yeah,
That's the way to do it. I mean, perfect.
Then we go on to an interview with Vince McMahon along with Hulk Hogan. I didn't even take notes on any of that.
Oh man.
Why? What do you got to say about it?
Just the way McMahon was selling the way McMahon was selling the interview, because basically you just sit
that's
there
right.
and
Okay,
hold the mic.
I remember. Yeah.
And Hogan's going off, and he kind of, just his facial expressions and the way he was leaning,
Yeah.
it was like so overdone. It was so like cliche, but it was so McMahon. It was
Yeah.
almost like, I don't know if anybody remembers Larry Nelson in the AWA, how he would sell. It was similar in that vein,
Yeah. Now that you mention it, I do remember. I think I was going to take a note on it, and I just never did. But what do you think he was trying to convey? It almost looked like he was worried, or like shocked.
I think he was just trying to be serious, like, crap. Well, this guy's going off. We're going to see what happens.
Oh, okay.
That's the way I took it.
All right.
Kind of like I'm not sure,
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else about that, or
No,
okay?
no, not really.
Then
It
we
was
get,
a classic promo, though. Good Hulk promo.
right. Yeah, I mean those two were like both great. So, then we get Mean Gene interviewing the Dream Team, which takes us to. Did I skip a match? Oh no, I didn't.
No.
Okay.
No.
Which takes us to match number 5, which is the Rougeau brothers versus the Dream Team, along with Dino Bravo and Johnny Valiant. I didn't write down who won this. The Rougeaus won it, though, right?
Yeah, that was a.
And then they turned on. That's right. The Rougeaus win with help from Dino Bravo.
Dream Team won.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yep.
The Dream Team
won.
won.
Say that 10 times.
Yeah, with the help of Dino Bravo. Then why did they turn on Beefcake?
You know what? I missed something. Maybe something was edited out from this match
Okay.
because
I don't know why I didn't take good notes on this one, but
because he gets involved in the next match, right, with Piper and Adonis, and I couldn't remember. I'm like, why the hell was Beefcake out there? He was just a bad guy in the match before. I couldn't remember if they were teasing the angle on TV or.
Yeah,
you know.
I don't remember that, but they left Beefcake there.
Huh.
The Dream Team and Johnny V left Beefcake in the ring with the Rougeos.
Nah.
But I don't remember what set that up, honestly, and for whatever reason I didn't write that down, so I had to go back and check that out.
Bravo was speaking French in the promo though, which was nice.
Oh yeah, he was.
Given that we used to watch international wrestling out of
Right.
Montreal.
Yeah.
Federettes made the first time I noticed them on this card, watching it, the Federettes, the ones that took the ring gear back and forth and did whatever, like they're cheerleaders almost.
Yeah.
No heat in this match either. There hasn't been heat the entire card yet.
No, not really. But that leads us to, like you mentioned, a video recap of the Piper Adonis feud. We get an interview with Roddy Piper. Mean Gene interviews Adonis along with Jimmy Hart. And then that takes us to match number 6, the hair versus hair / Piper retirement match. Piper and I think Piper was the first one that walks to the ring on this. Piper beats Adonis with the sleeper, and then Beefcake ends up coming in to assist in the haircut of Adrian Adonis. Now, Brutus Beefcake has gone on record. I don't know if it's recent or it's not necessarily recent, but I've just visited it recently because of him going in the Hall of Fame. I've watched a couple of his interviews and stuff. Or actually, I think he might have talked about this in his speech too. He hated the idea of being the barber.
I don't blame him.
Yeah, he said that.
Well,
like,
I mean, it worked. Got him all.
It did. It turned him into the second babyface.
Yeah.
Second top babyface in there. I'm sure he made a lot of money in that gimmick.
Yeah.
But yeah, he did not want to be the barber because he was just kind of looking at it like, hey, I've spent all this time building up the heel, Brutus Beefcake, and now you're going to turn me into a barber. He didn't know what all it would entail, but
welcome to the WWF.
Yeah. So then the very first thing that he does is he tries to cut Adonis's hair with the clippers, and the clippers don't work. This seems to happen a lot in hair versus hair matches in pro wrestling. So then he ends up having to cut. Somebody hands him some scissors. He kind of cuts the hair of Adonis, Adonis eventually cuts the rest of his hair off. But the reason that Piper was going to retire at this time, and he was not gone very long, I will say that, but he had gotten electrocuted outside of the ring, and he didn't think that he would be able to continue to wrestle. I don't remember exactly what happened, but he got electrocuted. Because I don't know if you remember, he had been gone for a while before that, and then he came back as the babyface.
Well, wasn't he making a movie or something?
Yeah, so I think he got electrocuted while he was making the movie. Either They Live or Hell Comes to Frogtown. Probably They Live, but either way, yeah, I think he got electrocuted when he was doing
He's
that.
electrocuted, eh?
Yeah, but he looked fine in the match. I mean, because I was like, I don't know if I knew that. I don't think I knew that at the time. So when I was watching it, I was like, oh, he was wrestling exactly the same as he always did.
Yeah.
I didn't notice any difference, but.
How about the number of gimmicks used in this match? I mean, you had like the clippers, you had, the
mirror,
hedge trimmers, the mirror, the fragrance bottle,
right,
and then the electric clippers. Oh, and by the way, the electric clippers never work. I was listening to Bruce Pritchard pointed this out. It's like in Texas, we never use the electric clippers because they don't work. They're not strong enough. You always have to have them plugged in, and it makes sense.
Yeah, that's what I just said. I was like, those never worked.
Yeah.
So that's why you had to go to those. But yeah, I can think of so many instances where they tried to use those, and they don't. But and I will point out that we did have a fan run in. But luckily he did not get. Well, I'm sure he did get his butt kicked after off the screen. But I think he was just so excited. He ran in, hugged Piper, Luckily it wasn't somebody that was coming in to go after him.
Yeah, I don't want to be going in the ring with.
I mean, I'm sure it didn't end well for that fan anyway. But and I remember you couldn't see it on the screen, but I remember like Piper like pointed at security coming for him. He's like, hey, look out! Like after he like jumped on him, but yeah, the guy just wanted a hug apparently. So.
Yeah. Crowd woke up for this match. This when they first started getting loud. That's when I noticed, really.
Yeah.
How about Adonis being 300 pounds and just like, I forgot that he was that big just watching him.
Yeah.
Because he could literally do anything like a 240 pounder could, like the way he bumps and moves.
Yeah.
Athlete.
Yeah. I mean, all the weight that he ended up putting on, he still moved the same.
Yeah.
A lot of people think that the adorable gimmick kind of killed his career. You would have thought that he would have got. I mean, it seemed like they were trying to give him a heel push even after this. And they kind of downplayed that gimmick a little bit after this. I don't know if you remember, but then so it seemed like they were trying to like push him as kind of a major heel, and the next thing you know, he's gone and he's in the AWA.
Yeah.
And then he was really trying to get rid of that gimmick. They were slowly chipping away at it, and then.
But it worked for him, People hated him for it.
Oh yeah. Right. I mean, that's the guy that embraced that gimmick. I think. I mean, he seemed to anyway.
Yeah.
He really embraced it, and
he kept it long enough in AWA. Even did the deal where he was taking his makeup and lipstick and putting it on Tommy Rich.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. But they were still trying to downplay it a little bit. They were still like trying to bring more of the old school tough guy Adrian Adonis into it. It was kind of like a mix.
Yeah.
But anyway, so then we get Gorilla Monsoon, Mary Hart, Bob Uecker, and Jesse Ventura. Oh no, I don't know. I don't know why I wrote that down. They might have just said something. I don't know. But then we get then Jesse Ventura goes to the ring and to interview. Did he go to interview the? No. Why did Jesse go to the ring? He just went to go to the ring to take the dog to end up taking Matilda out, but they sold it as him just wanting to go greet the crowd.
Well, he was having the Predator movie coming up too, and that was kind of I think he was out there because of that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So and that was the reason for him to take the dog. The real reason was him to be out there with the crowd because he's going to be in the Predator.
Okay, but the real reason was so he could take the dog back. But so then we get an interview with the Hart Foundation, Jimmy Hart, and Danny Davis, which leads us to match number 7, the Hart Foundation and Danny Davis versus the British Bulldogs and Tito Santana with Matilda. This is another one that I'm pretty sure that the crowd thought was going to be sort of a squash, that Danny Davis was going to get his butt kicked.
Yeah.
But it did not turn out that way, and the Harts and Danny Davis got the victory. Now, here's something that I didn't realize until I was watching it again. Tito was just kind of I guess I just always thought that Tito was just kind of thrown into this match, but they talked about during the match that Danny Davis was the referee for when Tito lost the Intercontinental belt to Randy Savage, and tried to act like that, that Danny had pulled some shenanigans or whatever, or chose not to see what happened when he lost the belt. So that added a little bit to it, anyway. But decent enough match.
Yeah, 8 minutes and 52 seconds. I remember figuring out that, like Danny Davis, he went to a wrestler from being a referee. That's the storyline.
Yeah.
But I remember figuring out that he was Mr. X while he was a referee, even before he wrestled as Danny Davis.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember we talked about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how about
Yeah,
Tito?
I'm not sure like how we figured that out. Maybe it was just the way that he moved.
Well, it was a lot because it was always in Boston Garden. I think that was the deal. He would wrestle as Mr. X there and referee there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there was like on his neck, he had like acne or something.
Oh, yeah.
And then the shape, you could just, I remember just figuring it out.
Yeah.
How about Tito being over?
Yeah. Tito was over huge, and Tito was like flying around the ring. I mean, that was actually a good match. I mean, you had to know that it would be. I mean, Danny Davis would really be the weak link in that match, and he did fine too.
Yeah.
I wish they would have just let him continue to be a wrestler because that guy was a freaking heat machine.
I know. Yeah.
But
You know,
for whatever reason.
They didn't, and this is the thing, that's like one of the reasons why I preferred the Southern wrestling is, number one, they haven't had any heat so far. Like no good guy has just been taking a pounding,
Right.
And had to fight his way back from underneath. They don't do that.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is the hot tag.
Right.
They did kind of a quasi hot tag. You could say it's a tag team match, 2 sets of heat or whatever. The first set, whatever, it was the only hot tag in the match, and it was like not even. It was like halfway through the match they did this hot tag, and they never went back to it.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? When I was watching it too, I was thinking the same thing. I was like, it's cool to go back and watch and everything, but it still doesn't compare because we were such fans of the territories and all these guys that were coming from the territories that we'd seen work a totally different style, and then now are working this style.
Yeah, the Midwest New York style.
Yeah. I did think about that while I was watching it, but
yeah, it was a good match, but I just thought it should be better. Just look at all the talent in there. You're expecting,
but pretty much. I mean, there's a couple standout matches. Everything else was just kind of,
I thought the same thing.
What it was.
At the time, I didn't think it was a great card.
No.
And then watching it again, it's like,
yeah,
it's kind of like watching
far though
extended house show.
So far
or weekend show.
So far with all of the WrestleManias though, I think we could say the same thing.
Yeah.
It was just, the matches were what they were. They probably didn't. Obviously they can't give them a ton of time because they got to do what they got to do. So
yeah, it was
that's another thing.
It's just the finishes, really. I mean, that's what the Pat Patterson WWF finish.
Right.
No heat, more ha-ha, just kind of,
yeah.
And the managers were getting all the heat. That's where all the heat went this entire card.
Yeah, they got a ton of it. So then we go to Mean Gene, a Mean Gene interview with Andre and Bobby the Brain Heenan. Then we go to match number 8, which is Butch Reed, the Natural, with Slick against Coco Beware. Butch ends up reversing a Coco body press and I believe grabs the tights for the 3 count on this one. One thing that I noticed though is that they didn't dub over Coco's music, which was not even one of their original songs. He was still coming out to the Bird by the time.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So I was like, what is going on? They dub over one of their own songs, but they let the Bird play.
Yeah, there's got to be a reason for it. Do some gumshoe investigative work, see if I can figure that out.
There's got to be something. So Tito Santana ends up coming in at the end and ripping Slick's clothes off. I don't remember what was going on there. Was there a feud with Butch Reed and Tito, or were they trying to build up a feud between those
I don't remember how they got into that.
Yeah, they didn't even really mention it. He came out there and ended up tearing his clothes off.
Slick was doing some awesome cane shots, though.
Yeah,
I mean, more manager heat. They're the only ones that got heat the whole card,
Yeah.
He's putting the cane into him.
No, I just heard this recently, or maybe I had heard it back in the day, but I'd never realized that Slick was Rufus R. Jones's kid.
Was he his kid? I thought he was.
I'm pretty sure it's his
kid. Related somehow, but
I'm pretty sure it's his
son. Because I know he's from St. Louis. He was in that scene over there in Kansas City.
I'm pretty sure it's his son. Because I always remember thinking, where did this guy come from?
Yeah.
Like, he just comes in, but
I
have to check for sure, but I think I read that he was his son.
Huh. Good.
Which makes
good likelihood of that. That's for sure.
Yeah, makes sense now.
Yeah.
Why he got the push that he got, but or even why he got hired.
Yeah, because I was
pretty
good.
I had never seen that guy before with the territories that we were able to see.
Yeah.
Never saw anything about him in the magazines or anything, and then he just shows up.
Yeah, he was in Kansas City, like the wasteland,
Yeah.
Same with they got Slick and Dusty Rhodes valet Sapphire.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
From from over there.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, same thing with her. I had never seen her or heard of her, I don't think. And then she just shows up. That takes us to video recap of Randy Macho Man Savage and Ricky the Dragon Steamboat feud. We get a Randy Savage interview with Mean Gene, and then we get a interview with Ricky the Dragon Steamboat.
I like how they had did the old school interview with the doctor.
Oh yeah,
You know?
right. Yeah. Yeah, so leading up to this match was what we see in the video recap was Randy Savage at one point had injured Ricky the Dragon's throat for a long time. He was selling it that he could not speak.
Yeah.
Or at least not speak very well.
And Bruno had to shove a plastic pipe down Steamboat's throat after it happened because his throat was closing up like an emergency trachea.
Oh, yeah.
Good stuff.
But that takes us to match number 9, which is the Intercontinental title match between these two. And Steamboat comes out with George the Animal Steel. Randy Savage, obviously, with Miss Elizabeth. Many consider this one of the greatest matches of all time, including myself. Steamboat ends up winning with a small package out of a body slam after George the Animal Steel pushes Randy the Macho Man Savage off the top rope. Now, the story is now that they plan this match out for like a month, which I could see.
Yeah, because Savage liked to do that.
Yeah, he did. And somebody else, I've heard of a few guys that like to do that, but definitely.
Yeah, at the time,
definitely
Dallas Page, but he was a little bit later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely Savage. Like to do that. But yeah, just a great match.
Yeah,
And
two-count
it
fest.
still holds up. You know, especially if you compare it with the other matches on the card.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's even better. Really, I mean, obviously, you got two of the biggest names in the business with Hogan and Andre in the main event. But match-wise, this one still blew that one away,
Yeah.
I feel.
Yeah, it was definitely the best match on the card, but I got a different takeaway from this after watching it because I haven't watched that match in a while.
Mhm.
I mean, before I'd thinking that, gosh, wish they wouldn't have had George Steele and that whole ha-ha thing they had to do, kind of took away from it.
Yeah,
But
I agree. I even felt that way at the time.
Yeah, yeah.
But,
Like, it's like he's going to wreck it,
yeah. But, because he's the hometown guy.
Yeah.
And he had been involved in the feud with Randy trying to get Elizabeth up until this point.
Yeah.
So
But
it made sense from that aspect.
I came away as, I don't think this is as good now from my test of time as I thought it was maybe 15 years ago. And definitely like during the time. It's a really good match. I mean, by far, maybe one of the best WrestleMania matches. But,
Yeah.
like when I'm watching this, I'm like, man, that WrestleMania 2 tag team match with the Funks and Santana and Dog, I like that better than this one.
Really?
Yeah. I did.
I would have to watch it again. I mean, I really liked that match too, watching it again. I'm saying the Funks and
Yeah.
JYD and Tito. But I don't know about that.
And I thought these guys needed more time. It was 14 minutes, 35 seconds.
Okay.
Because and a lot of it doing all of it, and maybe it's because like now that's all everybody does is 2 counts. Nobody knows how to do a 1 count. They don't know how to work a count, right?
Yeah.
And there were so many like 2 counts in it. Maybe that's why I kind of tarnished my view of it, is because it's kind of a prelude to like a modern match. It's really good though, but I don't have as much reverence for it as I had before.
Well, I don't think I do either, but just for the time
Oh yeah, yeah.
and everything, I still think in the build up and I just remember like, just the crowd reaction to it and just the back and forth and,
Yeah.
just like nonstop. I mean, really.
Yeah. And those two could go nonstop,
which is more,
you know?
yeah. And that was more like the style that you and I liked, and that we were kind of used to.
Yeah, really.
From the other, from like the territories and the southern promotions. But
Notice how Savage he got a pretty good ovation And Ventura even noted that Savage is over in Detroit.
He did. I mean, and watching it again, I almost thought they really ran the risk of that switching around. Steamboat not getting the reaction. Although, but he did. I mean, he still got a huge reaction. But that's kind of what happened later on in his feud with Flair when Steamboat went to WCW over.
Yeah.
The crowd kind of ended up siding with Flair.
Yeah. Yeah, different times, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, I noticed they edited music or Steamboat's music out, which, gosh, I hate when they do that.
I didn't notice that part.
Yeah. And then Steamboat's arm drags. He's known for his arm drags.
Yeah.
But I've been watching some old Jack Briscoe, and I know where he got them from.
Yes.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
That's true. And I'm sure if you asked him, he would tell you the same thing.
Have you heard him? Or that's had to be where he got them from.
Not off the top of my head. I don't know if I've heard that, but he came from that territory too.
Yeah.
So I'm sure he did. There's no way that he didn't get him from Jack Briscoe.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
And great reaction for the finish, like you're saying. I mean, that was a great match.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely one of the all-time greatest WrestleMania matches, possibly one of the all-time greatest matches of all time. I mean, really, it's up there. Then we go to a Mean Gene interview with Jake the Snake Roberts, along with Alice Cooper, another hometown boy.
Yeah.
And then we get an interview with Jimmy Hart and the Honky Tonk Man, which takes us to match number 10. Obviously, Jake versus Honky Tonk Man. And the lead up to this, actually, Jake never really had a babyface turn. Kind of the babyface turn was him getting hit with the guitar.
Yeah.
In the snake pit.
Yeah.
That was pretty much it. I really noticed Jake's pop on this one.
Yeah.
I think he got, up to this point, I think he got possibly one of the biggest pops.
I was thinking of that. Was his bigger than Piper's?
I don't know. I mean, it was comparable.
Because I thought about that. I'm like, man, those are pretty close. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah, it probably wasn't as big as Piper's, but it was pretty big. I mean, maybe that was I doubt it had anything to do with Alice Cooper.
Well, I think his Honky Tonk Man was so over as a bad guy too. I wrote that down.
Right.
He just
Yeah.
I mean, he had the biggest bad guy reaction so far.
Yeah, and this was another one that I thought, and I think a lot of people thought that Jake would definitely win this match.
Yeah.
But he didn't. Honky Tonk Man rolls him up and grabs the ropes and gets the pin. Then after the match, Honky Tonk kind of takes off. They grab Jimmy Hart and put Damien all over him. One thing that I thought was funny was Ventura and Monsoon kind of burying Alice Cooper in the way that he looked. Jesse Ventura even said that he's got one of those sunken chests instead of one of those expanding chests or whatever. And Gorilla even threw in something about how he never sees any gym time or whatever.
Of course, he's a rock and roll guy,
Well, yeah, right.
A couple of notes on that. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, to me, this was probably the third best match.
Yeah, I'd marked it as one of the best ones on there for sure.
Yeah, and not that they did a whole lot, but just what they did do and the way they did it. It was just a little bit different than some of the other stuff that they did.
I think I had this pegged at my number 2 match.
Okay.
Yeah. 2 or 3. I mean, with the heart match in there, you know. I mean, really, they got a little bit more time. They got 7 minutes and 4 seconds. At least they got that much and not 4 minutes,
Yeah. Yeah. From there, go ahead.
Alice Cooper. A couple of notes I had here. He actually had a barn in a home in southern Orion, northern Auburn Hills up here in Michigan.
Oh, okay.
I just wanted to get that out. It's pretty close to where my house is. I know a guy who's got a couple of the barn trusses.
Oh, okay.
Out, and he had him to block off his frame in a basement.
Oh, okay.
Basement door. It's pretty cool.
Cool.
Yeah, he called it the house of home of heavy metal.
Oh yeah,
And actually, they wrote some songs, like some hit songs, out in that barn, like playing.
really?
Yeah, I mean, to know how over the Honky Tonk Man was. I always like every time I see him, it's like you just forget how people hated that guy. You know?
Yeah, I mean, and this really was kind of the launching pad for him, I would say, because up until that point, well, I mean, obviously they brought him in and tried to make him a baby face. That totally blew up in their face.
Yeah.
So I don't think it really was that long before this that he had become a heel. And then obviously after this, Ricky Steamboat wasn't around very long, wanted to leave, spend
Yeah.
time with his family. So, the story goes that Butch Reed was supposed to take the Intercontinental title from Ricky. No showed the event, so then they went to Honky Tonk Man. And then that turns into the greatest Intercontinental run of all time.
Yeah,
Still
really.
to this day.
Yeah, no kidding. I don't think it's debatable.
No.
Jake, no stranger to big dome shows. He was on the Superdome show for UWF Mid-South in 86.
Was that the one where he got punched by Muhammad Ali and no-sold it? Or
That was
Or
the
no?
one before. He fought
Okay.
Humongous on the 86 one. He was a good guy.
okay,
Or maybe it was 85. I got the years wrong.
okay.
Oh, another
Either
note.
way.
No way Ventura's grammar would be allowed on WWE television today.
Oh yeah, right.
I mean, he talked just like, a couple guys
Yeah,
flapping over beer, you know?
right.
And Hart and Honky Tonk Man just pelted, just brutalized with garbage on the way back.
Yes.
It was almost as bad as the
Yeah,
Andre
and
one.
they ran back. Those two walked
Yeah.
back. They didn't ride back the little gimmick.
Yeah. And then they made the indoor record attendance announcement after that.
Yeah. Yeah. Mean Gene comes out, gives the attendance record 93,173. Everybody claps for themselves. Dave Meltzer must have been there and counted because he immediately disputed it and has disputed it all these years.
Yeah, well, it's Meltzer, so he's probably wrong. I remember thinking that guy was a tool in high school.
So then we get what should be the popcorn match, but it actually still gets a decent reaction,
Yeah,
surprisingly,
I have a lot on this one.
which is match number 11. The Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volkoff with Slick versus the Killer Bees, who actually get a nice pop as well. Bigger pop than I would have remembered or
Yeah.
thought that they would have got.
Me too.
Also, Duggan comes out. I should say this. Hacksaw Duggan comes out and stops Nikolai Volkoff from singing the Russian national anthem
How
before.
disrespectful.
Takes a seat at ringside to make sure that Volkoff is not going to sing the Russian national anthem. But go ahead on what you got on this. Besides what I said, because I was shocked at the reaction that this match got. I mean, really, you've already just seen 10 matches that vary in quality. Everybody knows that the main event is coming up. I'm thinking that they purposely placed this right before the main event so people could go get a snack or use the bathroom or whatever.
It was.
But it's still over.
Yeah.
It's still got a great reaction from the crowd.
Yeah. Yeah. Quickly for booking cards, this kind of, this WrestleMania is like a brief lesson on that. We had Bundy earlier, right?
Mhm.
WrestleMania 2, he was in the main event with Hogan, and now he's in, a midget match, like a 6-man, gimmick match.
Right.
But that's just how you move people up and down the ladder. Like Bundy couldn't stay on for a whole other year and have another main event with Hogan,
Right.
So it just shows how they kind of move people down, bring them back up. And then this one with Sheik and Volkoff, like you said, a popcorn match, getting somebody ready for the main event. But I don't know, man. Sheik and Volkoff, and I noticed this on the other WrestleMania. They are so over. People hate them they were hated as much as the Honky Tonk Man.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that.
In their matches, like watching them now, they're a lot better than what I remember.
Yes, I agree with that also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if it was meant to, and I thought the same thing, it was meant to just be put in there, but damn, those guys were heat machines.
Yeah.
There's a reason why they were champs. There's a reason why they're on TV. Hell, Nikolai Volkoff fighting Hogan on Saturday night's main event.
Yeah.
Awesome. Nice pop for a Duggan. Like you said, nice cheer for the Killer Bees. I credit that more with Sheik and Volkoff being so hated.
I don't know.
They were over, but
I'm gonna disagree with you because
you might be right.
Because before they even got introduced, like when they first started coming out of the rampway, you could hear the crowd like audibly starting to cheer for them.
Yeah.
And then they come down and then they announce them again and then they get another decent pop.
Yeah.
But as soon as the crowd saw them, they got a decent pop. But
yeah,
you might be right though. I mean,
who knows?
That's probably got a lot to do with it, but there's no denying the popularity of the Killer Bees at the time either.
Yeah, really. I know.
I mean, they were popular.
Yeah.
You know, I'm kind of surprised that they never won the belts. If they would have stuck around longer, they probably would have, because you know their tag team scene started to diminish a little bit right after. But
yeah, they kind of started pulling the plug on it.
Yeah. Now, I was going to ask you this: anybody that knows about like the Iron Sheik and
those
his
guys are underrated. I'm calling it right now.
Who?
Sheik and Volkoff.
Well, yeah. I mean, but like I said, anybody that knows about the Iron Sheik, like the last so many years, I think it started on Howard Stern, calling B. Brian Blair out, saying he's going to make him humble, saying he's going to do all this stuff to him. Now, did this start with this? Did it had something to do with this match, didn't it? I mean,
I'm trying to remember.
I
the story,
was
but
watching for
so.
it and I didn't see anything.
Yeah, I don't think.
But
it did.
But I know that Sheik has mentioned WrestleMania 3 before.
Yeah, and
when he's ranting about B. Brian Blair.
Yeah.
But anyway, the finish comes when the Sheik's got Blair in the camel clutch. Duggan comes in and whacks the Sheik with the 2x4, as Bill Watts would call it, getting the DQ victory for Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volkoff. Now, I should mention this, that they were a couple of your top guys in your LJN league, Sheik and Volkoff, for a long time.
Hell yeah. Hey, good match, but then again, no heat, and it was a WWF-like finish, you know?
Yeah, I mean,
all the finishes have been for years. I mean, just kind of like
right
the same.
Yeah.
You know, like
yeah. I mean, it was all built
same
up.
cadence.
It was all built up for Duggan to come in there and you know.
Right.
And Duggan was like fresh in there.
Yeah, he had been in there only a couple months,
fresh
probably.
in there. Yeah.
Couple months on TV anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of remembering some of the thoughts like going in. I was like, man, you know, Duggan's already pretty popular. I bet he's going to get a big push. And you know, he had matches like WrestleMania 4. I think he was in the tournament. I don't remember who beat him, but I don't think he made it. I think DiBiase beat him. I don't think he made it. I don't think he made it. He didn't make it to the finals because that was savage, but he made it farther than I thought. But you know, Duggan was hugely popular, but you know, never really ended up doing a whole lot in there, in the grand scheme of things. Really changed the way, like, you know, I was a big fan of his in the UWF. He had just come from there into WWF. Obviously, like I said, most of these guys that we had seen in the territory scene had to change the way that they worked. Duggan was a huge example of that. Because, I mean, if you go back and watch some of his Mid-South and UWF stuff, he was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
But
he was over big time.
Yeah. But he got to come to New York and take it a little easy, which a lot of those guys did. But
yeah, well, you got to figure they were
bigger,
traveling up and down the road too, you know?
Yeah.
Not like they weren't in Mid-South, but that eventually is wearing on you.
Right. You got anything else on that?
Just a surprise. Someone posted in the room of Eric Cherry, what was the sleeper hidden gem of the show? And I put Sheik and Volkoff against the Killer Bees. Like, if there was a match that just completely, like, I was looking at it and didn't expect that reaction or anything, that would have been the match.
Yeah. I mean, I was surprised at it too, mainly of the reaction from the crowd, but I think I would still go with Honky Tonk Man and Jake Roberts. Again, none of these matches were great. Looking back on it, I mean, besides Savage and Steamboat. I would not classify any of these matches as great.
Yeah, I could put 4 of them as good, 1 great.
Yeah, I mean they were what they were. You know,
Or 3 good, 1 great.
yeah, I mean they topped off some feuds and they started some other feuds.
Yeah.
That was pretty much the purpose of what was going on here.
Well, that was kind of like this year's WrestleMania. They had all those short matches. Oh, Jesus, how many matches did they have on that card? 24 or something?
I don't remember, but it just seemed like it went on and on and on.
Yeah, and
But
it was boring. Oh, God.
I agree. Yeah, we were going to talk about that, but then
That'd be too
we
negative.
decided better. Yeah, it's like all we'd be doing was, yeah, I would just leave with a bad attitude.
Yeah, you can go find that. It's hard enough not to be negative on here, but if you want the crap on it, you can go find that on the internet somewhere.
Exactly.
We'll do it one of these days.
Yeah, it does have a lot of defenders because I was vocal about my disdain for it a little bit, somewhat on social media, and I saw a lot of people getting upset with the naysayers, but
Different style,
it just
different
wasn't-
fans, you know.
Yeah, and you know what? It's not because it's just the current stuff, because I really enjoyed. I want to say I really enjoyed the last 2 WrestleManias, but this one I thought was just sloppy and boring.
Dead.
Just yeah.
No oomph.
Yeah, but it was really sloppy. Honestly, I just felt it was, you know, I'm sorry if I expect these guys that are at the top of their game, at the top show,
Screw it, let's have it.
of the year, to be as sloppy as they are,
Yeah.
to botch as much as they botch.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. That's just how I feel. Going back to this. Yeah, the matches were simpler, the matches were shorter, but there weren't any botches.
It wasn't even the botches though. It was just
Well,
like
that's what
the
was irritating.
aggressive. you
Well,
know?
that too. Yeah, I mean, it was just
That's what happens when you script.
the way that it was, but the botches really irritate me, especially on that stage. You know.
Yeah.
But anyway, I digress.
You just can't
Let's
get
get
it
back
if you're
to-
scripting everything, you know.
Yeah.
Period. You can't get somebody
Right.
if you're whether it be an interview, a match, or whatever. You give them the points, main points, and then let them do their thing.
I have no basis for this. You and I discussed it. My theory is that they give them a big rah-rah speech, and then they go out there and they think that they need to do something. They need to be like all jacked up, and they need to do all this stuff, and then they screw up.
Yeah. Hey,
That's
you know
my,
what?
That's my opinion.
If people are buying, no matter what it is, if people are buying something where they're going to a store, going to a wrestling match, they're going to purchase it on what they've seen so far. You know, and you take that to wrestling, why have a big, you know, like a big card, and then all of a sudden you're wrestling different, you're falling off of buildings when people paid to see the headlock. Not really, but, you know, they paid to see the 2 flips you normally do, not the 8 off of the rafters on the big show. So,
Yeah, I don't even care about any of this stuff. If they would have just worked, if they would have just worked regular matches that were solid and tight and not. Honestly, I think Miz and Shane was one of the worst WrestleMania matches that I've ever seen in my life. Shane McMahon should not be wrestling. He should not be. That's another thing that I was thinking about when I was watching it. For people that make their livelihood, I'm going to throw Vince in here too. That make their livelihood and have been around the wrestling business for as long as they have. They are some crappy wrestlers. Vince was a crappy wrestler.
I mean, would Jim Barnett be a good wrestler? You know,
Probably not. I'm not saying you have to be, but it just seems like you would have picked up more than that. And I know that Shane trained, but his punches were horrible.
Yeah.
His punches have always been horrible.
Everybody's punches are
Even
horrible in there.
But his
Or worse.
were like, don't you remember that he was like
Yeah.
missing with like every shot, and it just looked so bad. But
Well, it's the whole deal where they're just not promoting realism. They're promoting a show, and really that's the bottom line about the different styles and the different eras and whatnot. That between like a Ring of Honor or somebody else, they're just promoting a different product. And I agree. I mean,
yeah.
bad.
All right. Anyway, so there's my little rant about this year's WrestleMania. Let's get back to happier, simpler times. So then we get
sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Yeah.
So then we get a Mean Gene interview with Andre and Bobby the Brain Heenan. Not much of an interview. I mean, Andre says what he's got to say. Heenan's all excited.
Yeah, did you notice how excited? He was legitimately just
It seemed
on
like
cloud nine.
It definitely seemed that way.
Yeah.
Then we get the video recap of the feud and an interview with Hulk Hogan again. Then we get Bob Uecker as the ring announcer who introduces the timekeeper, Mary Hart. And then we get the main event, the World Heavyweight Championship match number 12, Hulk Hogan versus Andre the Giant. I remember sitting there thinking, I believed wholeheartedly that Andre the Giant was going to win that match for whatever reason. I should have known better at that point, but I guess I just figured because Hulk had it for 3 years, had kind of gone through like all the challengers, all like the other heels in there.
Yeah.
So I just figured that this was the way that they were going to get the title off Hogan. Finally. So I remember watching this match thinking, oh yeah, I remember like some of my thoughts when I was watching it in the arena and just thinking, oh, well, this is going to happen. This is going to happen. Then Andre's going to win. But alas, none of that happened. We get Hulk Hogan.
Sweet, sweet alas.
We get Hulk Hogan with the body slam eventually into the leg drop and 3 count. And Hulk Hogan retains in one of the biggest heavyweight matches of all time, and not just in stature, but not just the wrestler stature, but just of all time.
Yeah, it's got to be. I mean, that's got to be top. Because when the WWF or WWE does an attendance record now, like one of their previous WrestleManias, the attendance out-attended this one.
Yeah,
I think the one in Texas maybe.
It was pretty recent.
Yeah,
Just
San
in the last
Antonio
couple
maybe.
Years. I don't know. I don't remember.
Yeah,
but it was just the last.
But I don't
Might
count
have been Florida.
those.
But
I mean, this was like a prize fight feel. This was like it wasn't the show, the whole pomp and circumstance. This was like one main event selling this whole thing. Really, that's what it was.
Yeah,
A completely
really was.
different animal than what they do nowadays. It
Right.
was different times,
Yeah. I mean, that's one thing that that's one big change that I don't think people realize. And I actually have to credit, as far as you and I go, probably ECW for this, because all the way up until ECW, if we were going to go to a show, I remember the questions we would ask. We'd be like, well, what's the main event? What are the matches on it?
Yeah.
But then when ECW came along, they kind of changed things where it was just like, you're just going to see it because it's ECW.
Right.
And then WWF kind of took that into what it is now, where it's just,
Yeah.
it doesn't really matter. It's just WWE's in town, so you're going to go see it.
Yeah.
Not you and I, but I'm just saying.
Right. Well, I remember back on our shows at the studio in late 90s, talking about how McMahon is trying to change the WWE. It's what it looked like to me anyway, away from stars and more to just plug and play wrestlers, not really. And it's kind of like that now. It's,
Right.
like ECW, there isn't anybody that really sticks out. It's the overall product, if you will.
Yeah. And you coined the phrase. Well, I'm thinking you coined it. You were the first one that ever said it to me, and I've really never heard anybody else say it. Of pop wrestling.
Yeah, I think
and
I did.
that's exactly where we're at right now.
Yeah, really. It's pop. Pop kills everything. It kills wrestling. It kills music genres. It does kills cartoons. I mean, no matter movies, no matter what it is.
Yeah.
It's like a bunch of locusts coming in and just destroying things.
Yeah, I agree. So anyway, the impact of WrestleMania 3. Not only in this area, I mean, it was huge, and I remember like non-wrestling fans, kind of gravitating towards it for a while after WrestleMania 3 because it was such a huge thing. Eventually they fell out of it again, but But just one of the biggest wrestling events of all time. No denying it.
You know what? I want to go back to the match for a second, because
Okay.
this was one of the best from a working professional wrestling perspective. This was one of the best matches that Hogan ever did.
You think so?
His selling, because he had to.
Well, he sold to the whole thing, and that's
Right.
what I was thinking.
Right.
One of the complaints that you had about this year's WrestleMania was about how everybody just kind of laid around.
Yeah.
But I did notice, like, Hogan almost immediately started doing that in this match.
He wasn't, but he wasn't just laying there. He was moving.
No, right.
You know,
True.
he couldn't do anything but sell in this match. There just wasn't any way around it. Like
Yeah.
when you watch him in the bear hug, you know, you're watching it live, you're going, Jesus, you know,
Yeah.
I got time to go to the bathroom. But
Right.
like watching it from a different perspective now, Hogan worked that bear hug. That whole match was just Hogan making Andre look like whatever he could.
Yeah.
And I thought it was,
Yeah. Even the initial
it was brilliant.
Even the initial couple of body slams that Andre gave Hogan right off the bat.
Yeah.
The way that he sold him.
Yeah.
I mean, he was just. I mean, it wasn't overselling, but it was just the way that he sold it. I noticed that also.
Yeah, because he
And
sold big right at the beginning because he's a big guy, blah, blah, blah,
Yeah.
you know, and he just sold I thought it was looking at it now compared to back then, tremendous. Absolutely tremendous.
yeah, and you and I were not Hogan fans.
No,
At the time.
I am more now than I was back then.
Me
Definitely.
too. And it wasn't because, and I understood Hulk's popularity
Oh, yeah.
back then, but I just personally, for whatever reason, and I mean, believe me, if Hulk Hogan was going to be on a show that we were going to, that was a selling point, but we still rooted against him.
Yeah. We wanted our wrestlers to wrestle.
As a matter of fact, I think we mentioned this before. Probably the next show, maybe not. Yeah, it probably was. It could have been the next show that we went to was another show at the Silverdome. And the main event was Hulk Hogan and Bam Bam Bigelow against Andre the Giant and Ted DiBiase, but they had tarped off half the arena.
Yeah.
You had a Giant Omania sign
That's awesome.
into Andre the Giant T-shirt, and you and I were like down on the floor, and we were standing and cheering for the heels, and I think we were probably the only two people in that arena rooting for Andre.
I would say so.
And DiBiase, and I thought that I seriously thought at one point we might not make it out of there.
I did too.
Because you were running up and down the floor with that sign, and you were getting as much heat as anybody.
I know, it was sweet.
And then you and I tailed it out of there as soon as like Hogan got the pin, and people,
Oh,
and I swear,
yeah, that's
people
right.
were yelling at us when we were going up the stairs.
Yeah. I had some heat in that place. Like for Piston games, I'd walk in there with my Celtic attire on. Wasn't very smart, but yeah, that card was a fun memory. Sit next to those people we always had to sit next to.
Yeah,
The two worst people you could possibly sit next to.
yeah, exactly.
For the Hogan match. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say we'd always pick we always ended up next to the people that had the worst hygiene possible. It seemed like, but anyway,
Oh no!
I digress.
No Hulk
once
up.
again.
No Hulk up and comeback on this one.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I mean, that's 2 WrestleManias in a row. 3. He didn't Hulk up on the first one either. Like the old school
That's right.
classic.
That's
Somebody's
right.
beating the tar out of him. He's bleeding like a stuck pig, and he's coming up from his knees, and he does the whole shake. None of that.
That's right. It just kind of came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
One issue that if I do have an issue, my issue is when he is bouncing Andre's head off of the turnbuckles. I don't think Andre should have sold it the way that he did, because they had established that Andre had one of the biggest, most hardest
that's true.
heads in wrestling. Okay, later on, when he goes to headbutt Hogan against the post, the ring post on the outside, and Hogan moves out of the way and he hits it, which eventually led to the end.
Yeah.
At that point, I was starting to worry. I remember I was like, oh, well, maybe Hogan is going to win this, but that makes a little bit more sense. that he would sell that, but I don't think he should have sold just the regular turnbuckle shot.
Yeah, no. Credit for Andre for getting up for the body slam. That's kind of overlooked, but somebody at, in his condition, in that big, is able to get his body in the proper position. A lot of people can't do that. There's probably people in the business that can't do that. Get up for a body slam, and he was able to get up for Hogan. So
yeah. The only other disappointing thing was when Hogan moved part of the mat off and was going to what was he going to do? Like, he got him in pile driver position, and then Andre gave him a back body drop out of it. He was kind of like in the position where he was against the ring. It just didn't look that great.
Yeah, they didn't have to do that. That was
no. I mean, that could have been a big spot in the match, but it kind of that was probably really the only botch, if you could consider it a botch, probably on the whole show that I really noticed.
Yeah.
But anyway,
and Euchre making the ring announcement as Hogan the winner, I think that took some of the steam off of it. I always think when they have celebrities doing that stuff, because you're used to like a Howard Finkel, the winner of the match,
right?
Yeah, and then people go crazy.
I mean, I don't really remember, but I think they started downplaying a lot of the celebrities especially after this one.
Probably because they really don't need them.
No, they don't. And I think they realize that. I mean, especially after WrestleMania 3, I think they really realized that they don't need them to sell anything. But I eventually we'll get to WrestleMania 4, and we'll see if what I just said holds true, because I don't necessarily remember. But any final thoughts on WrestleMania 3 before we close the show out today?
Yeah, it was a good show, much better than the WrestleMania this year. But I don't even know. I mean, it was just blah. I was so surprised how.
I mean, being there was one thing. Being there back in 1980,
and you knew it wasn't a great show when you were there, but it was the atmosphere. You're there live, which is completely different. You're there with buddies and
right. And like I said, though, too, I mean, it was the culmination of a lot of feuds.
Yeah.
It was the beginning of a lot of new storylines and characters that from that point on. But
good show.
But yeah, I mean, plus at the time, we didn't know that Piper would be back in a year or two. So you're thinking you're really seeing his retirement match. And then you get to see what they build as the first meeting between Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant, which it was not.
Yeah, they did the Shea Stadium, and they had matches down south and wherever.
Yeah, and then you get to see one of the greatest matches of all time, Randy Savage and Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. But yeah, I mean, it was more about the atmosphere of it and the scope of it than anything else. But yeah, going back and revisiting it, match wise, it's nothing spectacular.
Yeah,
you got a few good matches out.
Big, huge event, and it was. Yeah, it was good. I mean, a lot of people would probably like to have something like that now.
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely.
But by all means, we're talking like Andre. If you're just remembering Andre for this WrestleMania 3 match, don't.
Oh, no.
Go out to YouTube and watch some of his stuff from the 70s and his matches with Stan Hansen in Japan. I mean, Andre could move. He was an athlete before. A lot of people seen the documentary. Just go out and look at some other stuff, and this kind of puts the Andre match in a little more perspective.
Yeah,
if you're a newer fan, you're saying, why would people vote for that guy,
Right.
Kind of like we did coming in. You'd see an older guy, and he just wasn't what he was, and then you see some of the old stuff, and you're like, I get it.
Well, Andre himself. I did not get Andre as a baby face.
Yeah, me neither.
Because it was like the old Andre that could barely move. So I did not understand that aspect of it. But then when we've talked about this before, the heel turn you can get away with a lot more. Heel Andre could get away with not doing as much.
Yeah.
And so then I started to like Andre. But
hell, he was working good with Kamala and Big John Studd, prior to this. I think, how old was he here? 38, maybe 35 at this WrestleMania. He died when he was 43. And that was
43?
94, maybe?
So he had to be
93?
I think it was 93. So
Yeah, so
yeah, right. Late 30s, mid to late 30s.
he had that
Yeah.
gigantism disease or whatever and it just made him appear
Right.
so much older, you know?
Yeah.
You would have thought he was Dick the Bruiser out there, 55 years old, lugging around, but
Well, there are just some wrestlers that always seem old, like Harley Race.
yeah, well, they didn't, they looked the same because they didn't do all the gas and everything,
Right. Yeah.
Like, look at
and
Vern
the
Gagne.
Andersons and Vern and
Yeah.
there's a bunch.
Great
of
shape,
so,
tremendous athlete.
Nick Bockwinkel.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think this wraps it up this week. Again, thank you, Brace Beemer, for being here and your expert analysis.
Oh, it was a pleasure being here, and great job. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And as always,
And thanks to anybody who's listening out there, joining us online or
yes,
just listening along, or anybody who downloads and watches later on. We appreciate it.
Yeah. Yes. We appreciate it very much. And just keep checking the Butch Blood Facebook page for future updates. And hopefully we will see everyone next week. And take care.
MWO. Yeah.
Three, oh, it's the magic number. Yeah, it is. It's the magic number. Somewhere in that ancient mystic trinity.